Kiran Kaur Gill, welcome again to ITV Gold. How are you doing today?
I am doing very well, thank you.
Of course, we have to have you here because there's a lot happening with SALDEF. So let's dig right into it. But right before talking about SALDEF and the SikhLead program that we're going to discuss today, I have to ask you, today President Biden was sworn in and he's now the 46th president of this country. Your comments on it and how does SALDEF hope to work with the new administration?
Well, first of all, I'm really excited. It was wonderful to see how diverse his inaugural event is, his cabinet is, and his administration will be. We're really looking forward to working with President Biden and Vice President Harris. There's a number of initiatives that SALDEF certainly supports around immigration, hate crimes. I mean, their push towards social justice, I think, is incredible, and we're really looking forward to working with this administration.
What are your hopes from the first 100 days?
For the first 100 days, I think we are hoping really that they'll look at a lot of the policies that have been enacted over the last 4 years around, for example, immigration, issues around social and racial justice, and really looking at how we can make this country more inclusive. So SALDEF is, for example, I know the Biden administration, I believe later today, is repealing the Muslim ban.
Right.
They're going to be reinstating DACA and looking at comprehensive immigration reform. I mean, those are the types of things that SALDEF supports, things that, again, make this country more inclusive and unified, which is really the message that I think came through loud and clear today.
Right. Let's now go ahead and talk about SALDEF. I know we are discussing SikhLead today, but right before discussing that, let's go into what is SALDEF currently doing, Kiran, and what are your ongoing programs that are happening during this pandemic this year?
Sure. So SALDEF has been pretty busy this past year, and currently we're looking at the policy priorities for 2021. We're working with the Biden administration, and then as I'm sure we'll get to in this segment, we're launching our 2021 SikhLead program, which comprises both the internship program, the leadership development program. In addition, last year we launched the first national Sikh American survey. So we'll be going and following through on the results of that survey and looking specifically in areas, for example, of representation in the media, discrimination. We're going to be looking at bullying in schools. So there's a whole host of issues that were identified in the survey that we're going to be working with on the federal and state level with legislators and with the Sikh American community nationwide.
And what's on your agenda for the next 3 months, Kiran?
So on the agenda for the next 3 months, we are looking at a couple different, again, policy priorities. So we're looking at issues around immigration. We're actually also looking at an issue that's come up recently around censorship on social media of Sikh voices. So that's something that we've been actively working on. We're also looking at again, some of the hate crime legislation that they're looking to pass and strengthen. And I mean, again, launching the SikhLead program, we are rolling that regional program out to 12 different states throughout the U.S. So it's been a heavy lift, but I'm really excited in the direction that we're going.
Let's talk about SikhLead because such a great program, and it has a lot to offer for young Sikh Americans that are living across this nation. Talk to us about the vision behind this program before we discuss what's actually in the program. What kind of inspired SALDEF to start this initiative? I believe it was started in 2015?
Yes, that's correct. Well, the program was actually started, the DC program was started earlier, around 2010. But yeah, I mean, what inspired the SikhLead program was really looking at, how can we get more representation in government? And how can we have our Sikh youth understand government and the legislative process? And I think it's so important. And it's really interesting that we're having this talk today, right? When we see the first Vice President of the United States as a woman, as somebody of South Asian descent. I think it's incredible. What does that representation mean? One, we see people, look up to, Madam VP. She's the first, she's breaking barriers, but also she can present the voices of communities that may not have had that level of, access before. The Sikh American community, certainly, we're a minority community in this country and a minority religion. But I think being able to have that representation and share the Sikh American experience, but also the experience of other minorities in this country is really powerful. And through the program, it's an internship program, so students are afforded the opportunity to get legislative internships on Capitol Hill, again, understand the process, but also have that experience so they can build off of that, and hopefully, it leads to a lifetime of involvement in the community, involvement in state and local government. And it's really incredible to see the results of the program, that we've seen over the past couple of years, where we've actually seen Sikh students go on to run for elected office, to win elected office, to work on Capitol Hill, and really, represent, provide that representation, but also provide that voice for, our community and so many others.
Kiran, I have to ask you, when we're looking at the Sikh American voices, there's obviously a conversation about lack of representation in policy and politics. Could you sort of, reflect a little bit on it? Where are you seeing this lack of representation, and how intense do you see it with certain areas of the government and the society?
Yeah, so I think, really the last 4 years, you saw much more, for example, of a homogenous looking administration. And I think, immigration would be one, right? South Asians and Sikh Americans, we worked in the past on issues around Sikh American or Sikhs in ICE detention facilities. So, there's not an understanding of that experience at that level in government. And you can see some of the policies and the ways that immigrants in the last couple of years have really been demonized, and there's a lack of empathy and understanding of the situation or country conditions where these immigrants come from, even around hate crimes. Just in the last week, it's incredible. It's almost mind-blowing, to look at what happened on Capitol Hill and the way that certain government representatives reacted or understood that situation, and comparing it to, other peaceful protests that happened throughout the summer. So I think really not having that frame of reference. And, when we talk about systems in this country that, and I know I've spoken to you previously about some of the initiatives SALDEF has had around social and racial justice. But, we look at systems that have historically been unequal, right? And I think as a member of the majority in this country, sometimes it's harder to see that. So when you have minority voices, whether it be a minority religion or, minority culture, ethnicity, I think you oftentimes see those things that others may find more difficult, and you have those lived experiences. I know we've talked about in the past, we talk about hate in this country, and we talk about the issues of white supremacy. The Sikh American community has been feeling that for years, in terms of number of hate crimes, harassment. So, unfortunately, we've seen that ramp up because of the rhetoric and things in the last 4 years. But it's an experience that Sikh Americans can share, and not only share, but make sure that those type of things and those types of actions don't happen to others or other communities. Right. It's part of, it's part of being a public servant. It's part of serving in the public sphere, but it's also, I think, part of, as a Sikh, part of our faith to ensure that, voices of marginalized communities are protected and heard.
Right. How has the Sikh youth responded to a lot of lack of representation, especially the ones that have been a part of SikhLead programs previously?
I think there's just a hunger to really be involved. And I think the last 4 years, I've just seen that grow. I see the youth as being very active, being very politically engaged and savvy. And I'm so impressed by the youth that have come through our program and that are applying to this program because they really want change, but they want change for the better. They want change for everyone in this country. And again, a lot of the message that we heard today about, unification, about really building a diverse America, and everyone having a place in that America is something that I think really resonates with Sikh youth.
Great. So let's talk a little bit more about the program. There are two types of program, a leadership development program and an internship program. And the deadlines are February 1st and February 15th, respectively. Talk to me a little bit about how different these programs are and who should be applying to these programs, Kiran.
Sure, absolutely. So for the DC program, for the leadership development program, that's going to be launched in the fall. The internship program, the SikhLead internship program, is going to be launched over the summer. It's a summer internship program. And as you mentioned, we have the DC program and the regional program. So the DC program is open to college students or above. And those placements are typically in federal agencies or on Capitol Hill itself in congressional offices. Again, an excellent opportunity to really learn about the legislative process and how government works. The regional program is similar. It's open to high school students and above, 15 and up. And it's similar in the sense that the placements are also in government offices, but those would be state and local. And it's an opportunity to really understand how state and local government works. And in some ways, especially if those individuals are constituents and living in those regions, which they are, to really continue to be involved in state and local government beyond that, whether it be, in advocacy work or even, as we've seen in many of the former Sikh leaders to get involved in appointed or elected positions locally.
Right. What kind of local leaders are the ones that SALDEF has featured so far in SikhLead? Who do they truly connect with in terms of the person that's going to be giving them information?
So who do they connect with in terms of in the SikhLead program?
Yeah.
So the way we run it, they have the internship program itself. So they're interning in an actual congressional or legislative office. But we also have a program where they're able to connect with other Sikh students in their cohort. We have them mentors assigned to each individual, based on their interest. So they understand, they have somebody to go to, so they understand how to, interact in this professional environment. If they have questions, if they need career advice. We also have a speakership series. So we bring speakers from around the country, nationally recognized speakers, and these students have an opportunity to discuss with them their experiences in the public sphere. Primarily they're individuals that have public sector experience. So they're able to ask those questions and, understand, what some of the challenges are, what motivated individuals to be in the positions they are in now. So it's an incredible opportunity for them to really learn, grow, and have this incredible support system as they do it.
Right. I've heard before too with SikhLead, they get to meet a lot of leaders, political leaders, as well as officials. Who are some of the key political leaders or officials that you have featured so far in SikhLead?
Sure. Yeah. So we've had senators, for example. We've had discussions with Senator Menendez, Senator Booker, as you know, New Jersey. We've had at the local level, we've had assemblymen, state assemblymen. We've had, for example, we had Kamal Kalsi, who was the first Sikh, turban Sikh in the U.S. Army, speak to them about his experience. We've had the director of ACLU talk about their experience and their challenges. So again, it's been a really, every year it's slightly different, but they really get to hear from people that are in the thick of, policy work and legislative work in this country.
Right. And what kind of opportunities have you seen come up for these individuals, especially the ones that are in college? They're looking for, I'm sure, job opportunities after that in politics or policy. What kind of, fields can they go into through this leadership program?
They can really go into any field. And we've had individuals that, want to go more traditional fields, medicine, engineering, et cetera, that have gained from this program because they've gotten to see the policy side and understand how their specific discipline sort of fits in a larger picture. But we've also had, for example, we've had individuals that have interned on Capitol Hill and then gone back and gotten positions on Capitol Hill. For example, an intern from 2018, her name is also Kiran Ahluwalia, actually interned at Senator Dianne Feinstein's office, and then was able to get a staffing position earlier this year at the same office. So, we've kind of seen the range of things, in terms of the positions that people have chosen to pursue afterwards. But certainly, I think back to, when I was growing up, the type of representation or even the types of opportunities we thought of and career paths we thought of going into. And it really gives, I think, youth an understanding of how many opportunities there are out there and what that could look like. So I think it's really also like sort of expanding their idea of, what they can do and how they can contribute, in terms of a career or in terms of, serving the public.
I just have two more questions left here for you, Kiran. If somebody was applying and watching you right now, what's the biggest piece of advice you can give them for applying to this program? Or perhaps what kind of applicants is the SALDEF looking for a SikhLead?
I think we're looking for applicants that really are interested in public service. If you're interested in learning about how government works, if you're interested in learning about, how the legislative process works, and you're interested in making a difference. I mean, I think that last part is key, right? I mean, we talk about the word public servant, and in Sikhi, I think, we talk about the concept of seva or selfless service. I think those two ideas really marry when you talk about going into this field, because it's about thinking, being in this position to promote the greater good, to think about what is good for society, and really, lead in that area. And if you or anyone listening is interested and thinks they have those attributes, and wants to be in a place where they can truly make a difference, I would encourage you to apply.
And finally, my last question to you, Kiran, has to be, we are in the COVID-19 pandemic. How is SALDEF going to function during SikhLead for that specifically?
So we actually were really lucky last year. We did the program virtually, and we were actually able to get virtual internship placements. So depending on what the situation is with COVID, we may also have virtual internship placements this year, or possibly, again, depending, we may have some in person. So it'll sort of depend office to office. But we absolutely continued despite COVID with the program. And, 20 students last summer got an incredible, life-changing experience. So we will continue regardless of what the conditions are, with the pandemic.
And I'm sure the application is available on the SALDEF website.
Yes, they are. Thank you for reminding me. It's www.saldef.org/SikhLead. And you can go and, again, the applications for the BC program are due February 1st and the regional program February 15th.
Yes, for sure. A highly recommended program for a lot of you to join. Thank you so much, Kiran, for your time on ITV Gold.